I played football, I played a few different sports, and on a whim, I randomly decided to join this kickball league. And I assumed, okay.
And where were you?
This was in Boston.
Okay.
This was in Boston still. So took a chance. I was like, all right, maybe, there'll be a few cool people there. I don't know. But I love just taking chances on things. If it doesn't work, cut it. If it's great, double down. The first person I met, I think, used to play safety for the Colts. The second guy I met there was a defense consultant in that he goes to places like Chechnya, Bosnia, Somalia, buys people from the prisons on the promise that they can't return to their home country and trains them as mercenaries.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I make PowerPoint slides, right? But it was an example of these just great people and absolute nicest guy in the world. And I met this incredible community of people. And I ended up becoming president of this league, and it was 600 people. But the thing is with kickball, 22, 23 at the time, in Boston, not a lot of kickball when it's 18 degrees out. So I wanted to keep the fun going. And what I realized in school and later was that community is so important. In school, I went to MIT, so it's a lot of brilliant people there, but I really learned I have to be proactive about meeting interesting people. And I was always drawn to figure out ways to have an incredible community. And I learned a little bit about that in school. And then afterwards, kickball was great. Started this bowling league thinking, all right, this will just be a few of my friends. It was 60 people for this first league.
I love you said a few of my friends, 60 people.
Well, friends invite friends, right? And look, I'm not a good bowler. I don't even really like bowling that much, but it's one of those things that anyone can do. Right. Yep. It's not like football where people are super intense and aren't really talking to
different
each other.
skill levels where it can make a huge difference on your happiness if you're at a different skill level.
Exactly. Right. So this was one of those things, and we set up rules. So it was very non-competitive, and it was just a fun way to meet new people, hang out with some friends. And, after bowling, everyone would go to the bar and hang out, and it really created community. And people would, meet friends to go rock climbing with, meet people to date, meet people to just have someone to talk to outside of the social circle that came from college. And that was really important for me. And, so 60 the first time, then I did another time. It was about 120, then 200. And a lot of my friends were going to business school. I was very much thinking about that. But I ended up just saying, I'm going to just go with this a little bit. Because I think momentum's important. Sometimes life is so random, and sometimes you get thrown something that might be a bit of a blessing. You got to go with it and see where it takes you. And I ended up taking leave of absence from work and just working on this, expanded to a few more cities. And eventually we were in basically every major city running these leagues.
And you're in 37 cities now, right?
Yeah. And, then beyond that, again, bowling's great. But not everyone wants to do bowling. And so over the past few years, I really have been thinking about the next big step where everyone should always be able to meet interesting, fun new people, right? I think a lot of people come out of school and there's a lot of friction to meeting new people. It's difficult. Maybe you hang out with coworkers, maybe you go on online dating, but that social circle starts to shrink.
Yep.
And at some point, I think some people settle, and they're going to, they settle for friends, they settle for relationships, for experiences. So they're going to the same bar, the same people, telling the same stories every weekend. And so that's really what I want to change. I want everyone to always be able to meet their people and then do fun, exciting things with them. And so that's why we're building this.
That's amazing. And I've met friends at your events, whether it be, Better Off Bowling or Better Off Brunching. I've met friends, I've met lovers,
Yeah.
I've met, people that I now am doing business with. Like, I think exactly what you just said has been accomplished with what you're doing. And I even think back to like when I first got to New York. I'm originally from Baltimore. And when I got to New York, I didn't have any friends that lived in New York. Even though I went to school in North Jersey, all my, people I went to school with stayed in Jersey. And I was thinking about this the other day. Almost every single one of my friends here in New York is because I played a sport with them, or I went to work with them, or I met them at a bar. It's one of those three. I don't think I have any other friends outside of like a friend, introducing me to a friend. But like these kind of events that you all are putting on are just the way that we naturally meet people. So why not make a schedule to actually do them intentionally to try to meet people? So yeah, I really love like that concept behind this. And something I learned too from you is like this concept of community that ties back to Japan. Can you explain like what community means to you and how that ties to this Japanese idea?
Sure. I mean, I think a lot of cultures, I think we've gotten worse at community. And I think that's a natural, kind of a natural cost of the way our economy, the way our lives, our social lives have evolved, where back in the day, people would grow up in a neighborhood. They know everyone in that neighborhood. Their best friends were in that neighborhood. No one left. And it's really easy to preserve that community. I think what you might be talking about, and I'm so worried that I'm going to butcher this. I'm not a Japan guy at all. But it's also a concept of entrepreneurship and just kind of a life's purpose, where it's called Ikigai. And this is the idea that you should do something that you love, that you're good at, that you can get paid for, and that the world needs.
Mhm.
And it's tough to find that. It is. And I didn't have that when I was consulting. I didn't have that for a lot of my life. But, I feel I have it right now. And that's such a lucky thing that for me, when people are like, oh, why are you working so hard? Why are you pushing this so much? And I believe in work-life balance. Trust me, I do. And earlier, Chris, 5 years ago, Chris had a great life balance. He's, motorcycling through Alaska, having a great time, doing fun things. But now, when you have an opportunity, you need to jump on it because that window won't always be open. So that's, I think, the Japanese thing that you might have been referencing.
It was.
But just in terms of community, I think a lot of cultures do community really well. I'm not personally religious, but I've always really liked the idea of the way how church builds community. And you'll see it where take the religious aspect of it aside, right? Just even ignoring that, you're seeing the same people every week on a repeat basis and you get to know them kind of like high school or college. And these are people in your community where you can say, hey, this person is awesome. I want to go, on a bike ride with them. This person, I want to date them. Similar to what I was talking about before, this person's weird. People have reputations. People aren't anonymous. And you really get to form this community that is important. I think everyone needs a community. I think the things that make people happy are a fulfilling job, a good relationship with their partner, and then a great community where you're always meeting interesting, fun new people because that's how you grow, right? Is people who push you. Having people like you in my life gives me new perspectives, allows me to find new experiences, and it challenges you from just sitting on your currently held worldview and not trying to expand it.
Well, especially, and it kind of relates to what you were saying about like that kickball experience that you had. I think when you learn from people who do things that are different from you, so you're not just interacting with people who, in my case, just other people in the media space. You can get very myopic in your thinking if you're only gravitating to people in your industry. But when you get to learn from people in different industries, that's when you can get really creative with what you're doing, or just get better perspective on the world. And I think that's what makes us better as entrepreneurs, is having that broad perspective based a lot on the people that we keep in our circle or the new people that we bring into our circle.
Absolutely. It's funny. I used to drink in college. I remember drinking PBRs in the basement with this guy, Drew, while his cover band played. I think it was called Angry Flannel. And his favorite quote was, "You're the average of your 5 closest friends."
Huh.
And I think he's right to a certain extent, right? You are the people you surround yourself with. And so you should always, but my 5 closest friends, I would say, they're in different cities. And so you should always be able to find these people, find your people to help push you, to help. By the way, that guy ended up starting Dropbox and is a billionaire
Oh,
now.
get the heck out.
Yeah,
Wow.
he did well for himself. Sharp guy, but networks are important. And, I know some of your other podcasts deal a little bit with, social justice and equity. And, I didn't go to business school. I have a decent network, but not a great one, I would say, business wise, as I've evolved this. I certainly would have loved to have more startup background in my past.
I know we all have that hindsight, like, oh, I wish I would have had this before I jumped in. I wish I would have went to marketing school.
Right. And being able to find these networks without having to pay $1 zillion to go to business school, I think is important. I don't like the word networking personally,
Same.
just because it feels like this forced thing where people are trying to hand me business cards or something like that. I like to just call it meeting interesting new people. But those relationships are important. I always try and help out my friends. They try and help out me. And if you're sitting out there watching Netflix every weekend or not, or hanging out with the same insular crowd that isn't allowing you to realize maybe more ambitious goals,
Mm-hmm.
I think you might be losing out a little bit.